Hey everyone, it's me, Maximilian Zantis, aka Rosentwig, and welcome to the Try Not to Sweat challenge while doing everyday tasks. It's incredibly hot in here, but I thought I would still do a video today, even though I'm very much sweating. Today we are doing something I haven't really done on the channel yet, and that is creating sound effects. I am in contact with Philip from Philosophic Games. This is the guy, he's also called That Snillis on Twitter. He's currently working on Hell Punk Horror, and since I already told you guys, I'm not that good at creating sound effects, but I think when you are a composer and stuff, it's really cool to also be able to do sound design stuff. So I really wanted to level up my sound design chops, and that's why I thought I would make a sound, or multiple sounds actually, for this GIF right here. I already imported it into my DAW of choice, and I already started collecting some ideas. One thing I really like to do when I start working on a project is I open this very lovely app. I'm not sponsored, by the way, but I would love to, so Notion, hit me up if you see this video. This is a really cool note app. Like, you probably ask, why would I even need a note app? I think this is one of the best note apps out there. Before that, I always used like the basic note function in my phone. But nowadays, I only use this, since this syncs up everything between my phone and my computer. And this is incredibly helpful, and it's also just a really nice and simple interface. And I already made a little file where I just kind of collected what I wanted to do. Since one thing I learned from Akash Thakar, I hope I pronounced his name right, he's a really awesome sound designer, one of my favorite. He actually worked on Hyperlight Drifter, and I very regularly watch his videos and consume his content. And one thing he always talks about is, first of all, trying to figure out the feel. Like, this is something that resonates very much with me, since that's kind of how I approach music as well. I focus more on like the mood of it. That's just something that's just comes natural to me, and that's the same thing I wanted to do with this sound project. So I first found some keywords, like the general feel. What I wrote down was ominous, scary, outerworldly, and retro. So let's have a look at this. So obviously this is very like VHS retro inspired, and that's something we can take care of, but it's also very outerworldly and ominous and obviously scary, but also to a certain degree. Like, it's not like Outlast or PT or whatever. It's more like this kind of, you know, more arcadey horror, if that makes sense. Yeah, and that's kind of what I wrote down. Then I tried to figure out what sounds do I need. Obviously, this is not like a strict list. You can obviously add more stuff, but that's just kind of my first ideas when I saw it. I would need a fire sound for those kind of fire dispenser things, but it probably would have to be kind of like more like a phasey and flangy type of fire sound, and not just like a campfire sound or whatever. Then I obviously need like electricity or current sounds, and I thought about adding some kind of sound for the presence of the monster. So I don't know what I want to do yet. Maybe like a bass layer, or maybe I'm actually going to record some voice things and just going to have it be in the background, because I just want to have his sound. I would just like to have his presence have his sound. Obviously, with music, you could do this with a motive, but since I'm not doing music for this right now, I just wanted to focus on sound design. Then I also wanted to add some kind of floating sounds, and you can see these like this particles stuff, and he's generally just floating, so maybe something like that. So first thing I came up with was the electricity. Since I obviously had no idea how to make that, I looked up some references and some guides online, and saw some people toying with synthesizers, because I first thought about, okay, what could I record maybe? Obviously, I can't just go to like some kind of AC unit and record the sound, because video games are not meant to be purely realistic. They are always like a very stylized version of the sound. So I started with this layer. That's kind of like an AC unit, actually. That's my first base layer I thought of coming up with. But this is just one layer of the things. I also have this thing. This I can show you. This is pretty easy actually. This is basically just having one envelope that's really long and that's kind of evolving and just assigning that to a lot of stuff, and also using the face function in Massive. Also obviously using some shaping tools and saturating it or distorting it a little bit, but I'm definitely gonna use more sounds, more processing stuff later on. And then I also got this, like this crackling kind of stuff, but I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna use that yet, so let's try to figure something out. Okay, so one thing I want to do is have find a way that this makes sense. Obviously this wouldn't have like an AC power sound, but let's just try to start with this first. And okay, so for now I just muted this kind of like bassy layer, because I think I'm gonna do like the low notes with the fire, and also maybe like his presence sound. So this is what we have right now. Let's see if I can add some cool stuff. Again, I'm gonna add an EQ. I'm also gonna add RC20 retro color. I'm just gonna go through some presets. Maybe like the VHS one. But this definitely needs to be a bit quieter. So I think the sizzle sound kind of works pretty well. Okay, I think I somewhat like this. Let's see if this would actually do anything for the sound. No, this would really just make it sound like an AC unit. So I think I'm not gonna use this layer at all. I thought maybe like it could give everything a little bit more of a bass to it and like a ground, but it just doesn't really work, and that's totally fine. In general, with any kind of creative work, I think it's incredibly important to allow yourself to be completely free and to make mistakes, because those kind of mistakes often end up leading you to the right thing. Okay, so I think I got something that works pretty awesome. I found this cool sound that has a really nice electric quality to it. I stretched it a lot and affected it pretty heavily with retro color. And then I put all of those in a bus, compressed them a little bit, added some more retro color, added some more distortion, put all of those through the reverb, and then I added some decimort, which is just a bit crusher, and I'm now gonna modulate that a little bit to just evolve the pattern a little bit of the sound, because it sounds pretty damn cool when it just does like crazy things like that. So I think this is already pretty damn cool. I'm now going to focus on the next things, which I think, if I remember correctly, I wanted to have some fire sounds, obviously, and maybe like some kind of presence sounds and some kind of floating sound. And then I'm going to fine tune this layer more, but I'm kind of getting stuck here at the moment, so I think I should go to the fire layer now, which I'm going to do. I'm just going to create a new pattern fire, and I'm also going to start with massive here. Okay, so what I came up with at the moment for the fire sound is this. This is definitely not the right thing I want, but I kind of want to get in this kind of, or start showing you more from this kind of perspective, or for this position, since this is something you definitely experience a lot when making stuff. The point where you're like, this is not quite the right thing. So let's try, maybe, first of all, I think maybe a little bit too much distortion. Let's see. Maybe let's try unison, just for fun. Oh yeah, that's definitely better. How about pitch? Okay, so this sounds like a really thick fire. I need to find a way to kind of make it a little bit less thick, since the ones we're working with are a little bit smaller. Ooh, that sounds really heavy. Maybe I should automate that. I mean, that sounds funny, but that's not really what I want. So let's actually activate the other sounds and see how that sounds together. Okay, so it doesn't really work yet. Maybe more distortion. Oh, I like how that sounds when I added that. That actually got kind of like an electric sound as well. So maybe if I just mix up everything together, it will sound great. I mean, that could happen. So I think that works pretty damn well for the fire sound in the background. It's kind of like flangy and I think this works really well for the for basically the currents. And this is a really nice crackle layer on top. So maybe I should just keep it that way and just get rid of this one. So I essentially have this as the background for those fires, which I think work perfectly. Then I have this, which is essentially his kind of like stuff. Then I have this, which is essentially like all the lightning strikes and stuff going around him. And then I also have this, which is just added ear candies effect, which is I think really nice. And I think the fire actually also gives it a little bit of a floating sound, but I think I'm gonna do something else with that. And then I have this, but it doesn't really cut through at all. Okay, so I think I've got it pretty much in a good area right now. The main layer is, or the background layer is gonna be the fire layer, which is this, which I made in, where is it? Is this one? No, it's this one, in Massive, which is basically just a very deep oscillator and modulated brown noise. And that's basically the sound for this stuff, but it's also kind of what's happening with him floating. That's why I actually adjusted the rate of the flanger to be somewhat similar to how he kind of floats up and down. Then we got the main sounds for the electricity, which is this. Okay, the crackle could be a little bit quieter actually. I also need to add an EQ to this, because we don't need the lows here. And then I got this sound, which started out as one of those electricity layers, but now it's kind of like a mix between the electricity layer and the presence layer I talked about. Okay, so I think I'm at a part where it sounds pretty neat. Obviously, this is not like the best thing ever, and again, I'm pretty new with this kind of stuff. But sound design or sound effects work and Foley work and stuff is super interesting to me. I also really want to do some Foley stuff where I record some stuff and manipulate them. So if you have any ideas for those kind of videos, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to try to do another sound design challenge like this. Yeah, so I hope you think this is pretty cool, and I hope you enjoyed this. I definitely did. I'm just gonna mix it now, and then I'm gonna play the GIF with the sound. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Bye.